their instruments, but still Dasarada is sleeping. And then they try to sneak into his, bed, where it is covered with royal net and all that. So they remove that, and then they see the king in a grave situation. Never they saw Dasarada like that. So they are afraid to touch him. But then when they shook him, they felt the coldness. They felt that Dasarada has passed away. So they could see how Dasarada when he was living, how radiant he was. Now when he is not there, they can feel Dasarada's absence. Then they said that the king is not waking up. They passed the information to Kausalya. Then they also came and shook the king, but he didn't wake up. Then the entire palace wailed in a loud tone, as if crunch of birds, that our king has passed away. Now we are all orphaned. They realized, their situation. When Dasarada was alive, they didn't realize, how well they were protected. It's only when the head of the family is not there, you realize in what grave trouble you are. They all wailed out loudly, and when they knew that Dasarada passed away, they cried out. Then they called Vasishtha and everybody, they called the royal doctors. They came and they testified that Dasarada, is no more. Then Vasishtha said, he called out some ministers and he said, let's arrange for the funeral of Dasarada. The next day, they put him in oil trough, in a Tailat Droni, they call it Tailat Droni, a trough of oil. Then, the next day, all the ministers assembled. They asked Vasishtha, what should we do? Then he said, what is there to do? Call Bharata, he has been anointed as king by Dasarada. So call messengers, let them go to Rajagriha, the city of Aswapati, and call him here. So when they said that, Vasishtha ordered three, ministers, Jayanta, Akopa, Rashtravarthana, and some other ministers, and asked them, you go to Aswapati's palace and bring Bharata here. Those messengers, they gathered all the treasures, they, checked it out from the royal treasury, many thousands and crores of gold coins to Aswapati, and many kinds of gifts and everything. Vasishtha says, do not give away the truth that Dasarada is not here. Do not tell them news. Just tell them that Bharata is being called back to Ayodhya. So the ministers go. They travel 4 days and nights, continuously. They reach the city of Rajagriha. They cross Aparatala mountain in between a cleavage called Pralambha. Then they cross Ganga river. They reach Kuru, the province of Kuru. They cross it and they reach a province called Jangala. And then they also see Ganga Saraswati confluence. They go to Panchala kingdom. They cross everything, and then they go farther west. They cross the Bahmika kingdom, which is the present day Bactria. Not bacteria, Bactria. So they cross the present day Bactria and then go to, it's somewhere in Afghanistan, the city of Rajagriha. It's there. So they go there and then they give all the jewels and everything to Bharata's grandfather, Aswapati, and his son is Yuddhajit. Bharata's maternal uncle is Yuddhajit. So they give all the gifts and they say that Bharata has been invited back. That night itself, Bharata gets a terrible dream that his father is being dragged on a chariot of donkeys, and many women keep laughing at his father. He is in a trough of oil and he is drinking oil, and he has fallen into a cow dung. Cow dung in the sense it's a symbolic that you are burnt with cow dung biscuits, right? It's a kind of thing. So I got this inauspicious dream that tells me that the father of my father or the king is dead. This is a bad omen, and I'm not happy anymore. So Aswapati arranged for many jokes and dramas around Bharata, but still he is not happy. When the messengers came, he felt further troubled. And he asked them, what is the reason for you to come? They didn't say anything. They said, you have been called back to the kingdom. That's all we are here to express. Please start back. And then Aswapati also gave so many blankets and mules and so many elephants, belonging to Airavata race, all these gifts to the messengers and to Bharata, and said, please take this along with you. Bharata entrusted all that to his soldiers, and then he started to proceed towards Ayodhya. He crossed 3 rivers, Hladini, Sudamana, Hladini and Shatadru. And then he came to the Kuru province. He also came to the confluence of Ganga and Saraswati. Of course, before that he crossed the Yamuna river, and there he fetched some water to drink it on the way. They collected water, they went forward. They also crossed so many Silavartana, Silyakartana, Akurvati, Kapivati, so many villages in the rivers. And then finally they reached a forest where they had all these Salavrakshas. There they tied their horses, they gave them rest. And then again Bharata started. They crossed the Kalinga city. It's not Kalinga kingdom, Kalinga city, which is south of Ayodhya. And then they crossed the Kalinga city, and then Bharata saw Ayodhya city, which was full of white buildings, and he entered the city. He said, why is the city so desolate? Why is it that I don't see any, in the gardens, I don't see young couples coming out of the gardens? Why is it the city so desolate? Why isn't there no olive or fragrance wood not burning here? What happened? Bharata questioned it, and then he went straight away, he made for the palace of Dasaratha. I mean, Dasaratha normally used to be in Kaikeyi's palace, and that was Dasaratha's palace. So he went there, he didn't find him there. So he went to his mother's palace. He asked, what happened to my father? I'm terribly wanting to see my father, Dasaratha. What happened to my father? Then Kaikeyi replies, your father has gone to that place where all living entities will go at their end. I mean, indirectly, she was so cool, she said that. And when Bharata was surprised, and he asked, and he fell on the floor, like, he fell unconscious, and then he took his uttariya and put it on his head, and he started weeping, my father has passed away. That father who wipes off the dust from me whenever I play outside and then come in, that father, I won't be able to see him anymore. He cried out. Then he asked, where is Rama, Lakshmana and Sita when my father had passed away? Then, how did my father pass away? He asks. Then Kaikeyi replies, he was crying out, Ha Rama, Ha Sita, Ha Lakshmana. Then he passed away. Why is he crying out, Ha Rama, Ha Sita, Ha Lakshmana? What happened to them? Why are they not in Ayodhya? Then she tells him that they have been exiled to forest because of me. Then she says that. Then he asks, why is it that they have been exiled? Then she says, I want you to be the king, my child, and I want your brother to be exiled. My child, get up. A king should not fall on the ground and cry like you. Uttishta Bharata, like that she says. Then Bharata is enraged. He draws his sword quickly as though to kill his mother. You wretched woman, you have brought down my dynasty to ruins. Without Rama, this Ikshvaku dynasty will be in ruins. He cried out. He blamed his mother. Then his mother also realized the mistake that she did. He cried out, how could you imagine that I will take the throne of my brother? How could you imagine that I will do so? You have brought upon me such a bad name and ill fame. He shouted all that, and then he goes to Kausalya's palace. Kausalya, upon looking at Bharata, she says, my dear child, have you come here? Are you satisfied now by sending your brother to the forest? Then when Bharata heard this, he fell unconscious one more time. Then he gets up and tells her, my mother, if at all I have committed this sin of sending my brother to the forest, I will accrue all these sins that are accrued by the persons who have committed these sins. And he reads out a list of sins. A person who is newly married, and when his wife approaches lovingly, if he doesn't satisfy her with her desires, whatever sin he gets, I will get that sin. And he also tells several sins like that. If a person who doesn't see Pattabhisheka of Rama, I will get that sin. If you don't watch the Pattabhisheka of Rama, even that is a sin, it seems. And then he says, if two people are quarreling on the road, and if nobody separates them, whatever sin accrued by that audience on that sin, I will get it. So he says he reads out the list of sins. Then Kausalya is satisfied and says, my child, I have mistaken you. I am sorry. I now know your love for your brother. Only you alone can bring back your brother. She says that. Then Bharata is satisfied. Then the next day Vasishtha, he summons the courtiers, and he also calls Bharata and he says, now you shall rule the kingdom and also conduct the funeral ceremony of Dasaratha. Then when he says that, Bharata tells, I am not a robber to rob the kingdom of my brother. And you, being our family priest and being such a wise and knowledgeable person, should not talk like this. And he says, how can an object rule another object? This kingdom is an object, and I am an object. I belong to this kingdom. And this kingdom along with me belongs to Rama. So I am an object just like this kingdom. An object cannot rule another object. So it is Rama alone who can rule this kingdom. And Rama alone, who is famous as a king, only he can rule it. And when Bharata said all these things, Vasishtha was also happy. Then they arranged for the funeral ceremony of Dasaratha. It was done on the banks of Sarayu river in the north of Ayodhya. And then after it is done, the next day Bharata comes, he weeps, he gathers the bones from the cremation ground. Then he goes and mixes them in Ganga. Or, usually it is said that you have to go to Gaya to do that. But finally he decides, I will go now to Ramachandra and call him back, bring him back. So arrange it for all the courtesans, merchants, civil engineers, geotechnical engineers, everybody, and then build a highway up to Chitrakuta. I am going to take the entire Ayodhya on this highway, go to Chitrakuta, convey my desire to Rama and bring him back. That Rama will never send away anyone with empty hands, whoever approaches him. So let's all go and beg from Rama his mercy. So like that, the entire Ayodhya followed Bharata on that highway. The highway was built, and then Bharata proceeded. He goes to Bharadwaja first. He asks Bharadwaja, where is my brother? Then Bharadwaja tells him that your brother is in Chitrakuta, you can go. But before that, I want to give you a hospitality. So I want to treat you and your retinue of army and your entire citizens with a nice hospitality. Then Bharata says, you have offered me water, arghya and a sheep, isn't that enough? He says, no, I want to give you a fantastic hospitality. So then Bharadwaja asks Vishwakarma to create a beautiful mansion then and there, and he invokes so many apsaras, Gritachi, Hema and several other apsarasas. They all come, even the musicians of Tumburu and other musicians of celestial musicians, they all come and they create a verdant, lush green carpet over there, all over the place. All the trees blossom in vernal beauty. And he arranges for the divine payasas to flow there like rivers. He builds a nice mansion and he asks Bharata to enter the palace. When he enters it, there is a huge royal throne in it, but Bharata doesn't sit on it. He sits on his normal, the minister's throne. He circumambulates the throne 3 times and he pays his obeisances. And then he sits on the minister's throne, and then he takes a chamara and starts fanning the royal throne as if Rama was there. So Bharata has passed the test of Bharadwaja, because Bharadwaja also doubted Bharata's integrity. So when Bharadwaja was satisfied, Bharata took leave of Bharadwaja and proceeded towards Chitrakuta. When he went to Chitrakuta, he saw a column of smoke coming from a distance. Then Bharata says, this could be the forest where Rama is living. I can see on the trees some naravastras, some jute clothes being tied down. There are some hangings, I can see them. That those must be used as a navigation device for Lakshmana, and I can see the lamps that are lit underneath the trees. Maybe Lakshmana is helped by those lamps during night time. This tells me that they are living close by. Let's go further. Let the army be stationed here. I will go myself and find out whether Rama is there. So he proceeds further. Then he sees a heap of dung of animals, forest animals. Bharata thinks maybe this dung is collected so as to use it in winter season. This is why when I said, Ramayana is like a living document, everything is detailedly documented. If it is a story, all these details is not necessary, but it has really happened. So here we can see the collection of dung of the animals. Maybe Rama and Lakshmana has stored this for winter. So when Bharata stepped in, he saw the ashrama, he saw Rama seated, inside. Then when he saw Rama, he fell unconscious. Then Rama also got up, and then he ran towards Bharata, he lifted him, and thus Bharata was in matted hair, he had matted hair, he was in bark garments. When Rama saw that, he asked, my dear child, I hope that the other kings have cheated you because you are a child and usurped your kingdom. What has brought you this calamity? And he makes him sit on his lap and says, why are you dressed like this? Why are you dressed in bark garments? Why are you here? Then Bharata says, my dear brother, without you, Ayodhya is bereft of a king. You have to come and rule the kingdom. Please grant us this prayer. Rama says, my dear child, our father has ordered me to be here. It is up to me and you to follow the word given by our father. But Bharata proposes so many arguments, Rama proposes so many arguments. Rama actually tells the administrative rules to Bharata. He inquires, are you properly taking care of your ministers? Have you employed that many spies required to guard, those departments like, treasury, the commander who guards the main gate of the kingdom. There are so many departments. Have you employed so many spies? There should be 3 spies on each department. Did you allocate such spies? And Rama asks all these questions. Are you treating your friends properly? If you take up a task, I hope you are telling about that to your friends only after the task is complete. Even before you started the task, I hope you are not telling it to everybody, you are not publicizing it. And he asks, I hope you are taking advice from only that many number of wise people. He says you should not take advice from very few people, nor you should take advice from many people. There should be a balance. I hope you are doing such things. When Rama asked all these questions, Bharata said, why are you asking me all these questions? I am not the king, neither I can become the king. Neither the donkey can imitate the swiftness of a horse, neither the sparrow can imitate the swiftness of an eagle, of a falcon. How can I follow you? You are the king, you should rule the kingdom. When Lakshmana said that, when Bharata said that, Rama also proposed so many arguments. Actually, before all these things happened, when Bharata's army arrived at Chitrakuta, Rama hears this noise, this clamor. Then he asks Lakshmana, Lakshmana, can you climb up this tree and tell me who has come? Looks like a royal prince has come here on hunting. Then Lakshmana climbs up the tree. Rama is sitting like this in a virasana, his left leg on his right knee. Then Lakshmana climbs up a flowery sala vriksha, and then he looks at, and he sees the Kovidara Dhwaja, the flag of the Ikshvakus. It bears the tree of the the pomegranate tree as a royal insignia. When Lakshmana saw that, he tells Rama, my dear brother, looks like Bharata have come here to attack us. Go, pick up the bow and your arrows, let's destroy the Ikshvaku race. The vent, my anger was not given a vent in Ayodhya. Today, I will vent out that anger here, destroy Bharata and his army. When he said that, Rama replied, did you ever hear Bharata talking in a grave tone to us? Had he ever offended us? No. Why then are you talking like this, Lakshmana? If you are desirous of the kingdom, when Bharata comes, I will ask him to give the kingdom to you. You take it. He will listen to me. When Rama spoke like that, Lakshmana was at once ashamed of his behavior. He got down the tree and he stood next to Rama and said, maybe it could be that our father has arrived here to see us. Then Rama, he did not hold back and started rebuking Lakshmana. He said, oh yeah, you are right. Maybe our father has come here so that his brother won't feel bad about it. Rama knew psychology. He only ridiculed his brother only to a point and then, pulled back. He said, maybe you are right, our father has come. Then Lakshmana kept quiet and he did not speak for the next 150 verses. So Bharata came and, these discussions were going on. He proposed, Bharata proposed, man proposes, God disposes, and, the argument went on for a long time. But finally, all the Siddhacharanas, Vidyadharas, sages, saints, everybody assembled there to see the sons of Dasarada arguing. When they saw Rama and Lakshmana talking that you take the kingdom, they were all very happy. Never they have seen two kings talking like that, two brothers talking like that. No, you take this. So they were talking like that and they were all happy. They pleaded Bharata saying that, my dear Bharata, whatever Rama says is right. Let him stay in the forest. Whatever he is saying, whatever he is proposing, is telling it right. Then Jabali intervened, a sage. In Rama's court, in Dasarada's court, there are so many ministers, Suyatnya, Jabali, Kashyapa, Gautama. So Jabali is one of the sages. He came and he said, my dear Rama, your father is just a body. He has impregnated your mother and you are born. And your relationship with him goes away as and when your father's body goes away, withers away. So now for what sake are you holding on to that dharma? It is useless. Come back to Ayodhya and rule the kingdom. It is meant for Kshatriyas to rule. He proposed all these atheistic arguments to Rama. Rama was enraged in anger. He said, I wonder how a sage like you should be tolerated in my father's court. And then he started speaking angrily towards Jabali. Then Vasishtha intervened and he said, my dear Rama, Jabali doesn't mean that. He is trying to convince you to come back to Ayodhya. Actually, Jabali also tells, my dear Rama, I am not an atheist, I believe in God, but when it comes, I will talk like an atheist also. I am talking like this to bring you back to the kingdom, not for any other reason. He also responds back. But Rama was still in anger, his eyes were red. Then Vasishtha intervened and said, my dear Rama, there once upon a time, Avyakta Brahman Vishnu was there, from him came Brahma, from him came Marichi, Kashyapa, Vivaswan, Manu, Ikshvaku, and he detailed out the lineage one more time. And he said, all these kings from Ikshvaku dynasty have ruled this kingdom up to your father Dasaratha. You too should rule the kingdom, my dear Rama. That's the intent. When he said that, Rama was pacified, but he said, my dear Vasishtha, then he said, Devagandharva Golokan, Brahmaloka Tatapparan, Prapnuvanti Mahatmano, Mata Pitra Chayatkritam, Mata Pitra Parayana. Devagandharva Golokan, Brahmaloka Tatapparan, Prapnuvanti Mahatmano, Mata Pitra Parayana. One who takes care of his father and mother, they will reach the highest planets. Goloka. Goloka is mentioned in Ramayana. Not only in Brahma Vivakta Purana, but Goloka is mentioned by Rama himself. So they will reach Goloka if they take care of their parents. Not only that, in Mata Pitaro Vrittam Tanaya Krutas Tatha Nattu Supratikaram Tattu Mata Pitra Chayatkritam Yadha Shakti Pradhanena Snapanavachchadanena Cha Nityam Priyavadanena Tata Samardhanena Cha. Parents give whatever they have to their children. They speak in a loving tone always. They rub their child with oil whenever the baby is sick. They give all what they have to the child and raise him. And one cannot requite such a love of parents. So I should follow my father to the end. I cannot leave my father's word to waste. I should follow it. So Rama proposed it, and then everybody started convincing Bharata that he should accept your brother's request. Then Bharata, he spreads a mat of kusa grass and says, I will fast unto death here if my brother does not come to Ayodhya. You Ayodhya people, what happened to you? Why are you not requesting him? Then Rama said, my dear child, this is not right to do. Get up. Only a Brahmana, if he is not given the promised money, can sit like this in front of a king and fast like this. Whatever you are doing is a sin. Get up and touch a noble man, touch me and sip water. And when he said that, Bharata immediately got up. See, this is the trait of the brothers of Rama. Even though they are proposing, arguing and doing all these things, but whenever he says something, they will listen to it immediately. Here Rama said, get up, it is not good. Bharata immediately got up. But that doesn't mean that he touched Rama, he sipped water, but again he started his argument, saying that, how can you not come to Ayodhya? How can I rule the kingdom? I cannot do this. This is adharma. In Ikshvaku race, only the eldest should rule the kingdom, not the younger one. How can I commit such a heinous crime? I cannot do that. Then when he proposed all those arguments, then Rama told Bharata that again, we should all follow. Our father's word is the word for all of us. That's the final thing. Then finally Bharata said, okay, at least get on to this golden padukas, these wooden padukas that are gilded with gold, at least just step on them. He said, step on them, this padukas will rule the kingdom. Then Rama, he thought, I couldn't convince Bharata. Then he looked at Vasishtha, what should I do? Then Vasishtha nodded, he said, then step on those padukas, give it to Bharata. Then that is the only solution. And Rama was defeated here. Uttarottara Ittocha Vakta Vachaspati Yadha. He is like Brahaspati when it comes to arguments, but that Rama was defeated by Bharata because with his devotion. Bharata's Saranagati, defeated even Rama. So Rama said, okay, I will get on to these padukas. Because Bharata found out a way so that Rama will not tread away from Dharma, and at the same time, Bharata won't rule the kingdom. The promise of his father is kept, and at the same time, everything is done. It's like, there's a saying that, the stick should not break, but the snake should die. Like that, they found out a solution for that, and Rama stepped onto the padukas and gave it to Bharata. And Bharata put them first on the royal elephant first. He did not put it on his head first because that symbolizes that Rama is the king. So he first put it on the elephant's head, and then he took the padukas, he kept it on his head, and then he started going back to Ayodhya. Everybody followed him. First they went to Bharadwaja's ashrama, and there the sage inquired, oh my dear Bharata, have you seen your brother? Rama replied, yes. And he told him all the things that had happened. He circumambulated around the sage, he took permission, and then he went to Ayodhya. After going to Ayodhya, he first situated his mothers in their palaces, then he ordered the retinue, and he said that I cannot stay in Ayodhya. This reminds me of my brother's absence. I cannot stay here. I'll go to Nandigrama and rule the kingdom from there. So let the kingdom move to Nandigrama. So and then the chariot was bought. Bharata took the padukas and then he went to Nandigrama. And there he established the padukas on the royal throne and he said, Kshipram Dharayat, Chatram Dharayat Kshipram. I mean, soon put that umbrella on those royal padukas. Kshipram Dharayat Chatram. Chatram Dharayat Kshipram. He says, I will establish these padukas and they will rule this kingdom and not me. And Yogakshemam Vahecha Ime Paduke Hema Bhushite. The Yogakshema of the citizens of Ayodhya, the welfare of the citizens of Ayodhya will be taken care of by these padukas and not me. He says that. And Tadahi Yat Karyam Upaiti Kinchit Chopahartam Upayanam Mahaghan Sapadukabhyam Pradhamam Naivedya Chakara Paschat Bharato Yatavat. Every day morning Bharata used to get up. Whether it be a small idea that he has given, whether it be a small consultation that he has done, or whether it be a small gift that he has given, he would first go to the padukas with folded hands and he would nivedayata. I mean, he would do the naivedya, he would utter all what he has done, he would read out his timetable before the padukas and then only his timetable commences forward. And this was the daily ritual of Bharata. So devotionally he ruled Ayodhya, staying in Nandigrama with matted hair and bark garments and fasting, all the 14 years. This was the greatness of Bharata. That's why Paduka Pattabhishekam is an epitome of devotional service, in devotional service. If at all there is a greatest deed that has ever been done by a devotee, it's Bharata's Paduka Pattabhishekam that overshadows any other deeds done by any other devotee. Even Hanuman's burning of Lanka is overshadowed by Bharata's humility and the devotion that he holds towards Ramachandra. So, like that, Paduka Pattabhishekam has been done. Let's come back to now again Chitrakuta, what's happening here. So when all the army of Bharata left, Rama also started feeling dejected. Then he said to Lakshmana and Sita that this place reminds me of my widowed mothers and also Bharata's appearance. He has come here, now they are all gone, now I feel unhappy. Not only that, this place is stinking with the smell of the dung from all those animals, horses and elephants that Bharata bought. So let's move away from here. That's why Rama doesn't want to stay here, he just gave a silly reason. Sita and Lakshmana, they also understood, okay, he doesn't want to stay here, let's go. They didn't say anything, they all followed Rama and then they went away. Actually, the sages around Rama's heritage, they are going away from the place. Then Rama asked them, has Sita committed any mistake towards you? Why are you going away? Has Lakshmana done anything wrong? Then the sages replied, what mistake will Sita do? She is such a lovely girl and she is such an obedient child. What can she do to insult us? No, we are going on our own way because there is an outpost here called Janasthana. It is infested with Rakshasas of Ravana. They are molesting all the sages and killing them. They are devouring all the sages. Because you are a prince and you are here, they have developed an enmity towards us, thinking that we have got you here. So that's why we are leaving to a nicer neighborhood in the forest. So when they said that, Rama also told Lakshmana that we should also move. Then one sage said, you should follow us, let's go. Then Rama followed them and then he left that place. And here ends, thus concludes Ayodhya Kanda, the glorious episode and the second biggest chapter in Ramayana, second biggest canto in Ramayana. If Balakanda has Rama's birth and Sita Rama Kalyanam as its jewels embedded in that episode, in Ayodhya Kanda, Paduka Pattabhishekam is the crest jewel that is embedded. It's like a crown, crest jewel of the entire Ramayana. So that Ayodhya Kanda will conclude here. We'll give you a 15-minute break. But before you go away, I'll tell you one more thing that I forgot to tell you in this episode. One sage named Trijata is very poor. He is dwelling in the forest for the sake of roots and fruits. His wife tells him, Rama is leaving Ayodhya, why don't you go him and ask some riches he will give you. He is donating alms. So then the Trijata came to Ayodhya and he asked Rama, I'm so poor, give me something. Rama said, I haven't even donated anything, take this stick, throw it as far as you can. And whatever distance you cover, how many cows are there from here to that point, you take all of them. Then he took the stick and then he threw it with all his strength, and then that stick went and fell near Sarayu river at a long distance. Then Rama embraced him, and then he gave all those cows to Trishata. Why did Rama embrace him? I mean, this is a great reason, because if Trishata had given the stick to Rama and says, "Oh Rama, I am so weak, I can only throw up to this distance, you throw it," Rama would have thrown that stick, and that stick would have gone beyond the universe. And he had to give the kingdom and the entire universe to that Trishata. He said, "Okay, he did not put me in the Dharma Sankara, in the dilemma, so that's why he embraced him and said he was very happy and take all the cows and go." And then, so with that we will conclude and take a 15-minute break, and we will continue with Aranya Kanda. And then Kishkinda Kanda, it will get more interesting and interesting from now on. Okay, we'll see you there. And this Sampurna Srimad Ramayana will continue until today evening at 5 o'clock. So be here on time so that we'll wrap up very quickly, and then we'll reach the Padka Pattabhisheka, else we'll accumulate that sin that Bharata has listed. So be here on time. Hare Krishna.
Hare